Gambian lawmakers begin debate on the new constitution bill. Rwanda's health ministry says malaria cases have dropped by 38%. Closure of weekly markets in the Gambia could cause meat scarcity, livestock dealers warn. This and more coming your way on The World Today. This is iAfrica TV and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now we begin with matters of the National Assembly because lawmakers in Banjul opened initial arguments on the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia Bill 2020 on Wednesday, laying the foundation for the adoption of a new supreme law for the Gambia. The draft constitution is widely accepted as containing the wishes and aspirations of Gambians based on the broad consultations conducted by its drafters, the Constitutional Review Commission. Aisha Tamba has more details of that in this report.
National Assembly members are speaking turn by turn, with each expressing their impression and disagreement with provisions of the draft constitution. The general debate allows for lawmakers to discuss the main substance of the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia Bill 2020. On Wednesday, Honorable Sidia Jatta, a representative of Woolly West, said the way the matter of citizenship is handled in the country has been problematic.
People have been living here for 40 years, 50 years, all their lives. Their children are born here and they are not Gambians. This is terrible. They have been paying all sorts of taxes here for decades. And yet the children they have here are not Gambians. And they were born here. Where should they belong? They belong where they were not born? That's not correct. A child can acquire the nationality of wherever he or she is born. That's what is international standard.
As progressive as the draft constitution is said to be, its provisions do not allow for children born in the Gambia to non-Gambian parents to become citizens. Honorable Jatta, a member of the opposition PDOIS party, said children born in the Gambian territory, whether in an airplane or a ship, should be granted citizenship.
Even if a child is born in an aeroplane over the Gambia, airspace, automatically that child is a Gambian. Should be a Gambian.
Despite these shortcomings, Honorable Jatta said the new constitution is a representative of the wishes of Gambians.
The fundamental difference between this constitution and the 1997 constitution is that even though people were consulted, in the final analysis there was no parliament to refer it to. So a lot of things were distorted. But here we have before our eyes a draft constitution. Anybody who has had an interface with the commission, if you look at the draft, you would see yourself there. In other words, in a sense, we are engaged in promulgating a people's constitution because people have participated in drafting what they think would be a fundamental guide for this republic, either individually or collectively. Those who have been consulted are present in this document when you look at it.
The new constitution will go through several stages with likely amendments before it is adopted or rejected by the National Assembly through a vote. Where adopted, the draft constitution will go through further adoption by way of yes or no votes in a referendum. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Aissatou Tamba.
National Assembly members begin debate on the new draft Constitution of the Gambia. And from that report, next we head to Tanzania, because Tanzanians restaurant operators are using technology to continue their business amidst the impact of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Businesses were greatly affected due to the pandemic, forcing business owners to adopt new systems to generate income and create jobs for young people. Some customers welcomed the innovations, which helped them to get their demand on time. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Food Sasa is one of several delivery apps in Tanzania. Through it, clients can order food from over 90 restaurants in Dar es Salaam. Its founder says necessity brought about the idea for the app.
The existing food platform then were focusing on the very high-end restaurants, right? So we're just like, what could we just create our own platform and just order ourselves? So yeah, then boom, the next thing we know is there's opportunity of so many people feeling what we felt. Like, so here we are now.
While some startups in the country lost money or closed down entirely because of COVID-19, Food Sasa says people staying indoors during the pandemic brought them good fortune.
We managed to support a lot of almost failed business during COVID-19. A lot of restaurants that almost wanted to close down during 19. So to us, we got a very massive jump from the normal monthly orders. We had over 35% month-on-month growth.
Despite the challenges of COVID-19, multiple e-commerce platforms continue to spring up in Tanzania, ranging from food and grocery delivery apps to online malls that sell commercial goods.
Tanzania climbed 9 places to the 88th in the Global Innovation Index ranking for 2020. The country's steady rise in the rankings over the last 5 years may be an indication of the increasing drive among young people to create businesses that solve everyday problems.
Customers have been generally receptive of apps like Food Sasa. Irene Kasasera cannot imagine life without them.
One
of the benefits is that it saves time. Secondly, it makes things easy for me. I can get the food I love wherever I am, be it at home, at the office, or in a meeting. They reach me.
Food Sasa's founder says readily available tools online have made making apps easy. However, finding the funding to grow the business has proved to be challenging.
We are stuck to where we are. We have the capacity to grow 10, 100 times, but we're stuck to where we are because we cannot find anywhere to raise funds.
Food Sasa's founder says he plans to expand the business to other major cities in Tanzania to deliver a taste of convenience to more customers.
From the report there in Tanzania, we come back home because the weekly rural markets, known as Lumos, were closed in May as a measure to cope the spread of the coronavirus. These rural markets serve as a major supply for meat for livestock dealers, but their closure in May has severely limited supply, and the Gambia is now facing a possible shortage of meat. Mariama Cham has more of that in this report.
Measures taken to curb the spread of the coronavirus in the Gambia had adverse effects on almost every aspect of life, including social and economic activities. The livestock trade is no exception. Supply of cattle, sheep and goats have severely diminished 4 months after the Gambia government closed weekly rural markets, which served as a major source of livestock. The country's biggest livestock selling point, the central abattoir in Abuko, has been lightly affected, leaving livestock sellers and butchers worried over a possible severe shortage of meat. As a result, the Livestock Dealers Association wants the weekly markets reopened to restore the trade in livestock, according to Lamin Dabo, the Secretary General of the association.
Appealing for the government, to help us, restore back our lumos, open them, because where markets are open, I see no reason why lumos can't be open. Because lumos started from 7 o'clock, in the morning. By 3 o'clock, they all disperse. When markets are open from 6 o'clock in the morning up to 6 in the evening. So I saw no reason why, lumos shouldn't be open.
At this time of the year, the abattoir in Abuko is usually filled with livestock, especially cattle. But now, only a few of these animals are seen roaming empty ranches. The closure of land borders in March also added to the country's meat supply problem, as dealers find it impossible to bring in cattle and sheep from neighboring Senegal or Mali.
And while Senegal reopened its weekly rural markets, the closure of the Gambia's borders has cut off a major livestock supply chain, according to Banyas Ramsela.
There is no lumo in the Gambia. It is only available in Senegal. And if you are going to Senegal, if you have an ID card, you have to hide it, because if you pass through the borders and you get caught, then you will have to pay before you pass. And what we used to pay is too much. The difference between the prices of before and during Corona are all the same, but the fares are different because they have been increased. Our lumos, which will solve all these challenges.
Most Gambians are poor and they live below $1.25 a day. Beef is just barely affordable. But as the price of cattle increased from $33,000 to $47,000, the price for a kilo of beef remains $250. Meat sellers like Amikebe said they are incurring huge loss.
It is very difficult because business is not going as usual. You will buy ram or cow and gain no profit at the end of the day. Sometimes you will kill 2 cows and it will take 2 days before all is sold out. In short, business is not really moving, and any help to boost it will do good.
While the Gambia government closed weekly rural markets, it allowed daily markets to continue operating with restrictions on opening and closing hours. The closure of the weekly markets did not shut down livestock supply, it also shut down farmers' earning because they can't sell their animals. The Livestock Dealers Association said it wants the weekly rural markets reopened to restore the livestock trade and make meat available to Gambians and residents of the Gambia. For iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
Livestock dealers warn against the shortage of meat in the Gambia amongst, of course, the closure of weekly markets in the country. And from that report, we stay home because reports have emerged that ex-State Guard Commander General Saul Baji has left Equatorial Guinea and could be on his way to the Gambia. Many suspect that the general may face the TRRC to confess to his alleged involvement in the alleged extrajudicial killings as the leader of the hit squad, widely known as the Junglers. The former ruling APRC, or Alliance of Patriotic Orientation and Construction, seems unworried about the general's home return. Ibrahim John tells us more.
Dudu Ja, the deputy spokesperson of APRC, told iAfrica TV that the Green Party is not frightened about the would-be coming of former State Guard Commander General Saul Baji. He said if the general is allowed to walk a free person, then all those detained for human rights violations should be released.
To welcome Saul Baji to this country, let him go to the TRRC and make any revelations. Being a general, very close to the president and aide to the president, Saul did a lot of things that people in the service, people that are even outside the country, I communicate with a lot of them, they're confessing to what Suleiman Baji did. So if you happen to make narrations, let him provide proofs. Saul cannot come to this country, say whatever he likes, then he works as a free man. That's not going to be possible. I will welcome him to come. Whatever he has to say, he's a Gambian. He has every right to make any revelation. But I am not scared the least.
Dudu Ja maintained that any allegation that General Baji may revealed at the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC, has to be proven. The APRC spokesperson described the TRRC as a theater show.
There is no court that you go to with verbal statements and you win a case. It must be proven. It's not enough to say, I was ordered to kill somebody. Does the law allow that? No. Then you are responsible. Unless you bring proof that somebody gave those orders. You must provide videos, documents that are signed for verification, or even audio recordings that would prove that it is the individual, but not just mere narrations like what is happening at the TRRC. The TRRC is like a theater show where people come and make narrations, others listen to it and they make judgments. It is not as cheap as people think, especially cases of murder. We know what the law says about proving a murder case. I am not scared the listen, I am not worried. He will only dig his own graves, so he is highly welcome.
Suleiman Baji, a former general of the Gambia Armed Forces, was one of Yahya Jammeh's most trusted aides. Many believe his supposed return to the Gambia is purely to appear before the TRRC. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Ibrahim John.
Former State House Commander Sol Baji is said to be on his way back home. But of course, we will wait and see. Now we move on because we head to Kenya. Now, in a bid to mitigate transport challenges in East Africa, Kenyan authorities are defining means to resolve the problems faced by cargo drivers within the region. Drivers usually spend more than a week at border points, but the trend has begun to change with the introduction of the COVID-19 e-certificate as part of efforts to fast-track movement of goods and services. Some drivers expressed their delight, saying it will help or it will limit their stay at border points. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Levi Obed is a long-distance truck driver. He plies the highway between Rwanda's capital Kigali through Uganda and finally to his destination in the Kenyan capital Nairobi. Obed, just like thousands of other drivers, has tested the bitter part of bureaucracy while attempting to deliver the much-needed goods across East Africa.
We are suffering here in Malaba a lot. Jump from Kenya up to here can complete 3 days. Then from Malaba to Kampala, you can again complete 3 days because there's a web bridge there in Bustema, which disturbs also a lot.
Between March and May, the time to cross borders in most of our borders had almost gone up 3 times because of the challenges. Drivers could even spend 5, 7, 10 days at the border waiting to cross the border.
The situation has left many East African countries struggling to let essential trade through without the coronavirus slipping in with it. Reliance on manual certificates and delayed test results, coupled with long-distance truckers' ever-growing web of interactions, has not made matters any better. Trademark East Africa, in consultation with the East African Community Secretariat, has now introduced a regional digital COVID-19 certificate and surveillance system that will monitor long-distance truckers' crew and enable COVID-19 contact tracing.
The system is designed in a manner that there is a mobile application. Drivers download the mobile application into their smartphones at the point when they are being registered. They get a username and passwords for that account. It's just a normal application the way you would have a normal mobile application, and it has 2 basic features. One feature is to enable the driver to monitor their work. So they are assigned jobs by their company to move cargo from point A to point B.
When a driver arrives at a checkpoint or a border crossing or at the port, all they need to do is to open the application and show the Ministry of Health officials their QR code.
The new system will allow partner states to electronically share truck drivers' COVID-19 test results, therefore minimizing need for multiple tests in a single trip.
So a driver starting their journey from Mombasa does not need to start their journey and go and queue in Malaba to wait to be tested. They can be tested down in Mombasa and they begin their journey. All they need to do is, when they arrive at the border, is to demonstrate that they have a valid COVID test result by showing their QR code, which will be scanned and verified by the Ministry of Health officials.
I think the new system will really help us because it has easen up the transportation of our goods and the processing of our letters up there. So I actually for this system because we had lined like my lorries in Malaba, in Kocholia. I cannot move to that end because of the checking of the status. So I have been very happy because we are now checked only once.
Drivers will no longer have to go and aggregate at the border points since national results are recognized anywhere they are tested in laboratories that are recognized by the WHO across the region. Authorities have so far registered over 40,000 truck drivers, with approximately 6,000 active and using the new digital application system. Uganda has also made it mandatory for drivers crossing into the country to have a valid digital regional certificate or else be subjected to a test. Other East African community countries are expected to follow suit by registering all truck drivers into the new system.
And from that report there in Nairobi, Kenya, we would now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the stories. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back, and you're watching the World Today News Bulletin on iAfrica TV. And now to the rest of the stories. Now, Gambia's President Adama Barrow is expected to appear at the National Assembly for the State of the Nation address on Thursday. He is expected to outline his government's policy and programs for the coming year. He is also expected to state how COVID-19 negatively impacted almost all sectors of the countries and the steps taken by his government in combating coronavirus. The Gambian leader is also expected to inform Gambians about his government's post-COVID-19 plan. Gambian's finance minister told lawmakers in March that the countries could lose an estimated $1 billion in revenue due to the coronavirus pandemic. He said the decline in economic growth is estimated to is estimated to emanate from trade, remittances, construction, hotels, and restaurants. If the pandemic continues to the end of 2020, the Gambia's GDP could fall into a recession, contracting by 3.1%, according to the African Economic Outlook. The report also indicated that tourism will be the hardest hit, with arrivals set to decline by 28% from 2019 for a loss of $110 million in revenue as 20,000 jobs. Meanwhile, the Gambia government announced plans to reopen the tourism industry next month for the 2020-2021 season, with measures to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Thursday's speech will be President Barrow's fourth State of Nations address since he took office in 2017. Now, at least 115 people were shot in the head or neck with crowd control weapons by police officers at posts over racial injustice and police brutality, according to a report released by an American human rights organization. The report from the Physicians for Human Rights stated that the incident happened across the United States in June and July. Mariama Cham reports again.
A report from the Physicians for Human Rights pointed out that the figure only includes publicly reported cases in June and July. It is possible that there is an undercount because the analysis of the report is based on publicly available data, according to the authors. Several race-related protests and counter-protests have been reported in the United States since the killing of 46-year-old George Floyd in May this year. U.S. police used what they call less lethal weapons for crowd control. These include rubber bullets with sponge or foam components. The bullets can still cause severe injuries, according to the Physicians for Human Rights. A doctor who participated in the report said the alarming figure reflects as a systemic violent law enforcement problem in the U.S. Police brutality and race problems are rooted in the U.S. history. However, Dr. Jason Nichols, an African-American lecturer at the University of Maryland, said police brutality and racism can be eradicated if every element of America's democracy is honored.
I think, number one, we have to be very vigilant about making sure that every element of our democracy is honored. And that means more people voting, more people having the opportunity to vote, more people registering to vote, more votes being counted, not all of these voter suppression efforts. We need to absolutely be educated, particularly as Black voters, be educated about who's running for our school board, who's running for our district attorney, and who's going to be our sheriff. Those are all elected positions in our country, and we need to be vigilant about who we elect and not think it's just all about voting for the president.
The Physicians for Human Rights' new visual investigation shot in the head highlights the head and neck injuries caused by kinetic impact projectiles fired at protesters in cities across the United States. The study also emphasized that the U.S. police use these so-called less lethal weapons without following the rules in many cases, and there are no national standards or restrictions on the use of such weapons. For iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
And from that report, they are filed in there by Maria Macham. Next, we head to South Africa because South African entertainment companies have developed a new mechanism to get people entertained as many were kept home due to the COVID-19 global pandemic. Well, drive-in movies are among the new revived programs to attract more people and also a boost to the industry after several months of closure. The initiative has been largely welcomed by the public as many got the opportunity to make fun as the lockdown continues. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Restrictions on entertainment and socializing during the COVID-19 pandemic has kept many at home and forced food and entertainment companies to rethink their strategies. But it's also helped revive an old craze.
We're looking for opportunities to monetize parking spaces, which were obviously very empty and no one was generating income out of them. So we actually borrowed the concept from the States, where we saw that there were a lot of companies sort of popping up everywhere, running drive-in cinemas.
We had to come up with new and exciting ways to make money and sort of keep our brand alive. And we partnered up with, we called the Filthy Moustache. We partnered up with Park Up and Africa Sky Cinema. And yeah, we brought the concept alive and we're super excited to see where we'll go with it.
Just over $10 gets you a hearty roadhouse meal and popcorn to munch on while enjoying an old classic in your car.
We're sticking to the classic, old school, nostalgia vibe. So the first dry run, we actually did Pretty Woman, and we've sort of been keeping to that theme as well. Last night we had The Wedding Singer. Today we're having Monsters Inc. and we had Lion King. Just sort of like those old movies that make you feel something.
It's a lovely spring evening in Johannesburg. These drive-ins are becoming more popular with people wanting to get out for a fun evening as South Africa's long lockdown continues.
Lockdown has been, whilst necessary, been incredibly tough from a mental perspective. Being stuck in the house, feeling trapped, feeling caged has been really hard. And evenings like this is incredible because you feel it's just open sky and you get to enjoy the vibe and just be with other people and be with your family and do something different that isn't sitting in front of your TV or in front of a Zoom meeting.
You feel safe, you feel you can control your hygiene standards because you are not in a public place as such. So it also reminded me of old school vibes. When I was young, I was studying in Durban, we used to do drive-in movies. So I thought it's an experience I wouldn't like my kids to miss and I'd like to expose them to it.
Since launching a few weeks ago, this venue in Johannesburg has sold out. And it's just a matter of time before the rest of the country catches on.
From that report there in South Africa, next Rwanda. Now, Rwanda has witnessed a significant decline in malaria cases in 2019 and 2020, according to health authorities. Health practitioners say the number of malaria patients have largely dropped compared to previous years. Authorities have warned against complacency against the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's have more in this report.
Health workers like Delphine Owamungu say they have noticed a change in the way people relate to efforts to protect themselves from malaria and that it has been paying off. In her 11 years as a local health counsellor in Majarajere sector here in Kigali City, she says she has seen significant changes because when she first started, malaria was claiming many lives in her sector, but not anymore. Local residents in turn say they understand the importance of using mosquito nets, removing stagnant water that is used by mosquitoes for breeding, and closing their doors and windows at home so that mosquitoes do not enter. Health practitioners in hospitals say malaria figures have reduced significantly. Compared to 2 years ago, the malaria patients have reduced a lot, by as much as half. In 2018 and 2019, we were receiving 800 or even 900 people per year. And now this year, as of June, we had received around 400. Health officials are attributing the fall in numbers to the measures in place to fight malaria. That can be largely attributed to a spraying program in houses to kill mosquitoes in the 13 districts that were being affected more than others, the vast majority in the eastern province with 7, 5 in the southern province, and then in Rusizi district as well. Initiatives to distribute mosquito nets also helped, done in 24 districts. We also called on local residents to implement other complementary measures. The Rwanda Biomedical Center says measures to fight malaria should not be relaxed just because cases have reduced noticeably. The Ministry of Health's 2019-2020 report indicates that malaria cases fell by 38% from 320 for every 1,000 in 2018-2019 to 198 for every 1,000. In general, malaria cases fell from 3.9 to 2.5 million in total. That is a reduction of 1.4 million. Serious cases fell from 7,000 to 4,000 during the 2019-2020 period. Deaths reduced from 272 to 167 thanks to early treatment and the efforts of health workers.
And from that report there in Rwanda, we come back home and do some sports news because a club president in the Gambia is unhappy with the amount given to clubs by the Gambia Football Federation from the $500,000 FIFA COVID-19 relief funds. First division clubs were given $600,000, while second division clubs received $500,000. However, the president of the Brikama United, a first division team, said the amount is small. Ibrahim Akebi Sonko has more details of that in this report.
In August, the Gambia Football Federation received the first general grant of $500,000 and the full women's grant of $500,000 as part of a $1.5 million FIFA COVID-19 relief package. The funds were approved by the Bureau of the FIFA Council in July to assist all 211 member associations in alleviating the financial difficulties caused by the pandemic. The Gambia Football Federation disbursed the money in September, giving $500,000 to 16 second division clubs and $600,000 to 14 first division clubs. The amount are between $10,000 and $12,000 at an exchange rate of $47. The president of Brikama United, Victor Sambu, told iAfrica TV that the amount is small and that the appropriate thing would have been to give $1 million to each club.
Each club should go with nothing less than 1 million, nothing less. I know GFF also has a constraint. It is our office, an office that belongs to all the stakeholders. But the amount they are giving to the teams is definitely small. Because when you look at Senegal, Senegal is giving almost 1.3 million to each club. They have more clubs than us. They have more clubs than us. And I believe the bigger they are, they have more constraints than we, the Gambia.
2 weeks ago, the Gambia Football Federation said in a press release, FIFA has mandated each member association to share the money as they deem it necessary, after which a report will be submitted to the FIFA Secretariat in Zurich. However, Sambu said the GFF should have involved the club president thoroughly before making any disbursement. He argued that the money is meant for clubs and not for member association operational costs.
Have called us or invited us and then tell us, try to clear our doubts. I think in that way, if they are genuine, we can defend those doubts or we can defend those issues to the communities that we represent. But if your own president, who should at least enlighten you on what is happening, don't have an idea of it, what is going on, how do we defend it? So in the long run, we will be accomplice of the GFF mismanagement of this fund, I'll call it. Because we've never attacked the GFF. They have been getting their annual subvention from FIFA. They spend it the way they want. At the Congress, they come and report it. We've never raised eyebrows. But this one was meant for clubs. So no matter what powers are entrusted to them by the Constitution.
Meanwhile, the first vice president of the Gambia Football Federation, Bakar K. Jambe, told iAfrica TV via phone that the majority of the clubs agreed on the amount and the mode of distribution of the FIFA grant. According to FIFA, the final phase of the grant, which is $500,000 to be released to member association in January, will fund the following: the resumption of league competitions, the implementation of return-to-play protocols, the participation of national teams in competitions, hiring of staffs, the maintenance of football infrastructure, general administration, and operational costs. For iAfrica TV, I'm Ibrahim Akebi Sonko.
The president of Brikama United there seems to be unhappy or satisfied with the distribution of the FIFA COVID-19 supporting money to the Gambia. Well, finally, to matters of the UN, because the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday ended the 74th session on its outgoing president, Tijani Mohamed Bande of Nigeria. The 75th session opens with a new president-elect, Volkan Bozkır, a Turkish diplomat, who will now preside over the meeting of the assembly. Omar Ahmad Toure has more in this report.
The president of the 74th session of the UN General Assembly, Tijani Mohamed Bande, praised youths for their uncommon leadership in the face of difficult times. Bande was speaking Tuesday at the end of the 74th session in New York, where he stepped down as president of the UNGA after a year.
It's a moment of reckoning for our shared planet and future. This is a time for action, ambition, equality, inclusion, and partnership. It is therefore important that in the work of the United Nations, we continue to engage and involve youth. They have shown uncommon leadership in the face of the difficulties of our world. They have been particularly vocal regarding climate and social justice issues, and we must listen to them as our lives depend on this.
On Tuesday, Volkan Bozkır of Turkey was elected president-elect of the 75th session of the UN General Assembly. Volkan said it is their responsibility to strengthen people's faith in multilateral corporations and international institutions with the UN.
We need to continue a frank, transparent and result-oriented dialogue about what went wrong in our efforts to contain the virus and what we have to do to avoid a similar situation in the future. We will also need to ask and answer questions about how COVID-19 vaccines can be distributed fairly and equitably.
The ceremonial ending of one and opening of the next session of the UN General Assembly traditionally takes place 1 week before the general debate. World leaders are expected to begin addressing the General Assembly by video link next week due to COVID-19 pandemic. For iAfrica TV, I am Omar Ahmad Toure.
And that report there by Omar Ahmad Toure finally brings this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can log on to our website on iAfrica.tv. But for now, though, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.